In the small French town of Lourdes, nestled in the Pyrenees, a child was born on January 7, 1844, into a family defined by poverty, illness, and faith. Bernadette Soubirous was the eldest of 9 children, raised in a millhouse that fell into destitution after a series of unfortunate events struck her family. Racked by chronic asthma and poor health, Bernadette's physical weakness made her seem an unlikely candidate for sainthood. Yet from the very beginning, she displayed a gentle strength of spirit, a humility rarely seen even among the deeply devout. Lourdes itself was unremarkable at the time, a forgotten corner of France known only to locals. That would all change in 1858, when Bernadette, then only 14 years old, reported something that would transform not only her life, but also the spiritual trajectory of millions around the world. It was at the grotto of Massabielle where Bernadette claimed to have seen a lady dressed in white, who would later reveal herself as the Immaculate Conception. Over the course of 18 apparitions, between February and July, Bernadette's visions drew skepticism, curiosity, and eventually worldwide attention. Her sincerity and unshakable consistency in describing the visions won over even the harshest critics. She never wavered, never added or subtracted from what she claimed to have seen, even under intense interrogation by church and civil authorities. Her story, and the subsequent miraculous feelings at the grotto, began to draw pilgrims from across Europe, beginning the legacy of Lourdes as one of the most visited religious sites on earth. The apparitions began on February 11, 1858. Bernadette, her sister Toinette, and a friend had gone to gather firewood near the grotto of Massabielle when she heard a rustling sound like wind. Turning, she saw a luminous figure in a niche in the rock. The lady was bathed in light, dressed in white with a blue sash and golden roses on her feet. She did not speak at first, but Bernadette instinctively dropped to her knees and began to pray the rosary. It was the beginning of a series of visions that would profoundly alter not only the course of Bernadette's life, but the course of modern Catholic devotion. Over the next few weeks, the lady gave Bernadette several messages, most notably one that called for prayer, penance, and the building of a chapel. On March 25th, the lady finally disclosed her identity. "I am the Immaculate Conception." This title, declared as dogma only 4 years earlier by Pope Pius IX, was not one Bernadette could have possibly understood on her own. She was uneducated and knew little of theology. The Church took this as a profound sign of the vision's authenticity. At the lady's instruction, Bernadette unearthed a hidden spring in the grotto, which quickly became associated with miraculous healings. Today, millions still visit Lourdes seeking physical and spiritual restoration from that same spring. Despite the fame and public fascination, Bernadette never sought the spotlight. In fact, she retreated from it as soon as she could. In 1866, she entered the Sisters of Charity at Nevers, where she remained until her death in 1879 at the age of 35. Her life at the convent was marked by suffering, tuberculosis, painful tumors in her knees, and constant health battles, but also deep inner peace. When asked why she was chosen for the visions, she simply replied, "Because I was the poorest and most ignorant." That humility became a defining trait of her sanctity. Bernadette died on April 16, 1879, after uttering her final words, "Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for me, a poor sinner." Her body was buried in a simple tomb beneath the convent chapel. It seemed like the end of her story until her grave was exhumed in 1909 as part of the canonization process. What was found stunned everyone. Despite being buried for 30 years, her body was found to be incorrupt, showing no signs of decay. There was no embalming, no scientific explanation. Her skin was still intact, her body pliable. 2 later exhumations, in 1919 and 1925, confirmed the same phenomenon. It was a miracle of preservation the Church could not ignore. The incorruptibility of Saint Bernadette's body remains one of the most profound wonders in the history of Christianity. Normally, a corpse, especially one buried without embalming, would decompose significantly within weeks. Yet, more than 140 years after her death, Bernadette's body remains astonishingly intact. Experts from both the medical and scientific communities have examined her remains and found no natural explanation. While the Church never officially proclaims incorruptibility as a miracle, it does treat it as a sign of divine favor and sanctity. In Bernadette's case, the evidence is impossible to dismiss. Her body now rests in a glass coffin at the chapel of St. Gildard in Nevers, where pilgrims come daily to gaze upon the serene, unblemished face of the saint. A thin layer of wax was applied to preserve the visible parts after the third exhumation, but it only enhances, not disguises, the astonishing condition of her remains. For many, Bernadette's incorrupt body is not merely a preserved relic. It is a living symbol of hope, faith, and mystery. The stillness of her form, the peace of her expression, and the inexplicable lack of decay serve as a challenge to the secular world. Perhaps there are still some things science cannot explain. In recent years, Saint Bernadette has experienced renewed global attention, not just from Catholics, but from curious minds around the world. Pope Leo XIV, in a widely publicized statement, acknowledged the incorrupt body as a luminous reminder that holiness defies time, space, and even decay. His words reignited global fascination and sent millions back to Bernadette's story in search of meaning. Pilgrimages to Lourdes and Nevers continue to grow. Books, documentaries, and theological analyses continue to pour over the implications of her life and death. What makes Saint Bernadette so powerful a figure is her complete ordinariness. She was not a scholar. She was not wealthy. She was not healthy. Yet through humility, obedience, and unwavering faith, she became one of the greatest saints in modern history. Her incorrupt body is not merely a medical marvel. It is a testament to spiritual purity. In a world driven by speed, doubt, and data, Bernadette is a whisper from eternity saying, "The divine still breaks through." She remains, in flesh and spirit, untouched by time and corruption, calling us all back to something deeper, simpler, and eternal.